Keeping a healthy oral cavity, which refers to the entire mouth, so the teeth, gums, tongue, palate, lips, cheeks, salivary glands, and so on, are oh so important, not just for your mouth, not just for speaking and smiling and looking the way that you want to look, but also for your heart, also for your gut, also for your skin, and even for your brain health. This video will be a detailed guide on how to improve oral health. I will talk about oral cavities, mineralization of such cavities, sugar, plaques, fluoride, and many generally sound health practices you can implement in your life to better your oral health. I'm going to start this video with a basic explanation of how cavities form. And for cavities to form in the mouth, bacteria is one of the necessary ingredients needed for this to occur. Numerous bacteria can get into the mouth and cause cavities. A very common one most people, including you, will have is called Streptococcus mutans. And this bacteria, although not present at birth, is super common as it is introduced to the mouth through sharing utensils, cups, straws, even kissing on the lips, and so on. It's quite obvious why most people have bacteria like Streptococcus mutans in their mouth, due to how regular these activities are. I am in no way implying you should avoid doing these activities I listed to avoid bacteria that create cavities, and so we will now discuss how sugar feeds on these bacteria to give an actual actionable step on how to prevent cavities caused by bacteria. Sugar feeds the bacteria in your body, which allows the bacteria to cause cavities in your mouth. Think of bacteria as a ball and sugar as a food source that feeds such ball. Without food, imagine a ball being hungry, so hungry in fact he can't do any damage to anything. But when this ball is fed, it is allowed to wreak havoc and cause destruction, so in this case, cavities in the teeth. The bacteria that causes cavities simply reside in your teeth and is hungry for sugar, and so when it's fed, this process occurs. So, sugar feeds bacteria and hence indirectly causes cavities. Does this mean we should eliminate all sugar? No. Firstly, actually eliminating all forms of sugar from your diet would basically be impossible to do, as sugar is naturally occurring in many healthy foods like apples. But secondly, sugar is needed in your body for short-term use. For example, I train MMA 3 hours a day, and so alongside electrolytes, I supplement a tablespoon of honey in my drink most days for the extra boost of glucose. Consuming some sugar is necessary, and although I could talk for a very long time about this topic, I suggest just one actionable step for you to remember. Limit sugar that has been chemically created, so refined sugar, and added to foods such as a donut, practically only getting sugar from foods that are naturally occurring with it, such as an apple. Most of these foods that naturally occur with sugar have fibre in them. Like an apple that has 10 grams of sugar, so this sugar is slowly absorbed into the body instead of being absorbed quickly and spiking your blood sugar levels like with a donut, which has no fibre in it. A little bit of sugar has some benefits, like being an immediate energy source, providing an energy boost that is valuable for athletes. However, a lot of sugar, especially those from unnatural sources, can of course not only create cavities in your teeth, but a whole range of other issues like diabetes, cancer, obesity, and more. I'll have a more detailed on sugar specifically, as sugar is a form of carbohydrates, and so I want to make a whole dedicated video to carbohydrates, which I'll post later on. So I've talked about bacteria that lies in the vast majority of people's mouth, and I've talked about how sugar feeds such bacteria. I'm now going to talk about remineralization and demineralization of the teeth. Remineralization, simply put, is when minerals such as calcium and phosphate are added to the teeth. Demineralization, on the other hand, is when the opposite occurs, so when minerals are removed from the teeth. Your teeth are always in a state of either remineralization or demineralization. You cannot have both occur at the same time. Mineralization of the teeth is extremely important and deeply affects your teeth health. Through remineralization, we can actually repair cavities that have just started to occur in our teeth. As seen in this diagram, the enamel is the most outward layer of the tooth, and the dentin layer is the next layer below the enamel layer. If a cavity is only at the enamel layer of the tooth, so the most outward layer of the tooth, your body can naturally refill the cavity through mineralization. However, if the cavity has got past the enamel layer and got to the dentin layer, unfortunately you will need to go to the dentist and get your teeth drilled and filled, as they say. You're probably wondering, how do I have my teeth in a constant remineralization state, as opposed to a state of constant demineralization? Demineralization typically occurs when the mouth is in an acidic environment. Consuming coffee, tea, and lemon, for example, are acidic, and so while your mouth is in an acidic state, your mouth is demineralizing. Acid affects mineralization in the oral cavity because it changes the chemical environment around your teeth, specifically by lowering the pH in your mouth. If the acidic pH is lower than 5.5, then this promotes demineralization. The recommended pH level in your mouth to have is ideally between 6.5 and 7.5, with 7 of course being neutral on the pH scale. If your mouth is already in a state that's demineralizing and you consume something that's acidic like a coffee, well then it will capitalize on that and cause cavities even faster. Acidity is bad for the mouth, but does that mean we should never consume foods with acidic flavors? Just like with sugar, the answer is no. Not only does coffee, for example, which is acidic, have numerous benefits that I've talked about in a previous video, but limiting all foods that have acidic flavour would greatly hinder your quality of life to an extent where it is worth it anyway, even if these foods didn't provide their unique benefits. It should be noted that saliva largely impacts whether you are in a state of remineralization or demineralization as well, since saliva neutralizes the acids and provides minerals for mineralization. Therefore, if you are frequently snacking sugary, starchy and acidic foods, this maintains a constant acidic environment in your mouth that saliva will have to constantly flush out. It should also be noted that water, which keep in mind is neutral on the pH scale, when consumed can decrease the acidity of your mouth by flushing out the acids from your mouth and making the pH more neutral once again. To prevent a long-lasting acidic environment in your mouth and also coffee breath, many rinse their mouth out with water after consuming coffee, which is effective at dealing with both issues. Now we've talked about mineralization of the teeth, let's discuss plaques. Plaques on your teeth are sticky, colourless or pale yellow biofilms of bacteria that form on your teeth. They are formed by many bacteria in your mouth, as well as the food you consume. If not removed by brushing and flossing, plaque hardens into tartar, also known as calculus, which is more difficult to remove and can lead to further dental problems like cavities, bad breath and gum disease. I want to quickly point out how your gums are extremely important in keeping your teeth where they are. Many dentists tell patients who experience sensitive teeth to brush their gums lightly to increase circulation of blood and other nutrients to the deeper portions of the tooth that actually extend into the bone, alongside also brushing your teeth and tongue, of course. When brushing your teeth, many raise concern on whether fluoride in our toothpaste is good for us or not. Fluoride is a substance that is not a vitamin, not a mineral, not an essential nutrient, but in the last century was discovered that can actually replace some of the hydroxylate bonds in our teeth and actually make those bonds hyper strong, super physiologically strong in fact. It was discovered en masse in the United States and Europe that the addition of fluoride to drinking water into many toothpaste would be useful because it creates these super physiologically strong bonds within the minerals of the teeth that helps prevent cavities. Nowadays, some studies have come out showing the bad effects fluoride has on thyroid health and brain health when you consume excess fluoride. I want to highlight the words excessive fluoride. Normal amounts of fluoride have not been shown to have any notable side effects. And if I'm honest, the studies showing the bad effects of fluoride, of excessive fluoride that is, are also pretty weak too. Keep in mind, that's coming from the assessment of someone who goes against countless health protocols like striving for high cholesterol. I personally filter my water from fluoride, but keep fluoride in my toothpaste so I can control my consumption of fluoride and not consume an excessive amount. If you want more detail on filtering water, I've talked about this on my video on estrogenics. I'll link that in the description below. YouTuber Carl Rahn raises a good point though, when in one of his videos he discussed how it is admittedly concerning that the government puts fluoride in our water because they care about our oral hygiene. It doesn't seemingly care half as much about diabetes, cancer, obesity, and other international health concerns. Also, humans have been around for millions of years. Why is it now that we suddenly should have fluoride in our water and our toothpaste to keep our teeth safe? My response to that is that we don't need fluoride. It's not necessary as such. It just can help in some regards. And so, like I said, that's why I filter the water that contains my fluoride, but still have it in my toothpaste. Earlier in this video, I mentioned how dentists recommend you should brush your tongue alongside your teeth. Your tongue can in many times be the reason for bad breath instead of your teeth, and many neglect brushing it and wonder why they have bad breath. Once a day, I also use a tongue scraper. Using a tongue scraper once a day can also be advantageous to removing bacteria, but make sure you don't damage the tongue tissue when using them. People ask if mouthwashes are also good for preventing bad breath, as well as helping the rest of your oral health. And if I'm honest, the answer is no. Most mouthwashes contain alcohol, which is bad for your oral cavities for many reasons similar to smoking and vaping. Simply put, they deplete certain components of the mucosal lining of the mouth, and they disrupt the healthy components of the oral microbiome. A very popular mouthwash that you've probably heard of is called Listerine. Did you know though that Listerine was originally a floor cleaner, but the product wasn't selling, and so they rebranded it as a mouthwash? They published numerous ads during the 20th century that propagated a new fear in people's minds that they had a newly termed condition they invented called halitosis, which simply put means bad breath. This made people feel they needed Listerine, which is great for business, but not great for people who genuinely wanted to improve their oral health. If you're going to use a mouthwash, make sure it is not alcohol based and that it is not a strong antiseptic, or that if it is an antiseptic, that is once again not alcohol based. Such mouthwashes exist out there, although they are a little hard to find. I don't personally use mouthwash, as I agree with most dentists that say brushing your teeth and tongue twice a day, tongue scraping once a day, getting sufficient sleep and diet, and also flossing twice a day, which I will discuss next, is sufficient for your oral health. Flossing twice a day is just as essential as brushing your teeth twice a day for numerous reasons. It removes plaque and debris, it prevents cavities, it reduces gum disease, it helps protect you from having bad breath, it maintains dental longevity. The list can go on and on about the critical role that flossing has on supporting oral health. Flossing is extremely cheap to do, and so I don't understand why many people neglect doing this alongside other oral health protocols. Many dentists say that if your gums bleed while you're flossing, you actually need to floss more often. It's relatively common for gums to bleed when you first begin flossing between your teeth, and as long as the bleeding isn't prolonged, this usually isn't considered a problem. I'm going to finish off this video with some final oral health protocols that I found useful but haven't yet included in this video. Using a soft toothbrush is recommended by numerous dentists because very vigorous brushing with medium or hard bristles really disrupts the interface between teeth and the gums in ways that's not healthy for the gums and actually can damage them. When I used to brush my teeth with medium and hard toothbrushes, I used to brush really hard thinking I was doing a great job, but turns out I was doing the complete opposite. Also, make sure you aren't mouth breathing. Mouth breathers normally have way worse oral health due to creating a dry mouth and a lack of saliva. I will talk about more of this topic in my next video. When I was a kid, after me and my sister finished brushing our teeth, our parents would read us a story to sleep and give us a glass of milk to drink while reading this to us. Seems quite innocent, right? I mean, milk is so rich in so many nutrients, and I've discussed how amazing milk is in another video which you can watch, which I will also link in the description below. My parents were seemingly doing a good job by giving me and my sister some milk to drink while reading us a bedtime story. Well, it turns out you should actually avoid drinking a glass before bed of milk without brushing your teeth afterwards. The lactose in milk is a form of sugar which promotes cavities when it is left to sit on your teeth. My teeth were alright thankfully, but unfortunately a cavity started to form on my little sister's tooth, although thankfully it was alright in the end. This is the end of the video. I've hoped you have enjoyed. If you have any questions or anything that you'd like to ask me in the description below, any advice that you could give, I'd greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. I will see you for my next video. Goodbye.